The drill bit snapped at 14 meters. Clean break, just like that. Silas Vrenner held the two halves up to the sodium light and watched the metal cool from orange to grey. And that was it. 11 years on Veridian 7, and he was staring at his last piece of functional equipment. Broken in his hands like a promise nobody had made him. Gritty Gulch didn't earn its name through poetry. The settlement clung to the canyon walls of Veridian 7 like something that refused to fall. Modular shelters stacked 3 high, connected by catwalks that swayed in the sulfur wind. If you've ever stood in a place so remote that the sky itself feels wrong, that's the Gulch. The air tasted of copper filings and something volcanic that never quite left your throat. 10 years ago, 12,000 souls had poured into this canyon chasing Aurelium, the blue crystal that powered half the settled galaxy's jump drives. Now, fewer than 300 remained. The ones too stubborn to quit. The ones too broke to leave. Silas fit both categories. He sat on an overturned cargo crate outside his shelter, 3rd tier, west wall. 53 years old. Hands like tanned leather from a decade of bore drill work. His prosthetic left eye, milky blue, installed after the accident in year 3, caught the last light of Veridian's amber sun as it dropped behind the canyon rim. The eye flickered. It did that near Aurelium deposits. Hadn't flickered in months.
You shouldn't be here. I know. I had to see you. You break another one? It wasn't.
Fen Okaido appeared on the catwalk below, climbing toward him with the easy confidence of someone young enough to trust the metal under her boots. 21. Compact, quick. Red Veridian dust coated her skin so permanently it looked intentional. Around her neck, a small carved wooden starship dangled on a cord. Her brother had made it before she'd shipped out.
Deposits are tapped out, Silas. It's common knowledge. 72 hours, that's all the shuttle has. Time.
The shallow claims are tapped, Silas. Everybody knows it. Bedek says the last shuttle's got 72 hours before the company pulls the pad. Maybe it's time to...
We can fix it, Silas.
No, we can't. Not this time.
The years of drilling and hauling and breathing sulfur. Partners leaving one by one.
He didn't want to hear it. Not from Fen. Not from anyone.
Are you really gonna...
11 years he'd poured into this canyon, drilling, hauling, breathing sulfur, watching partners leave one by one. Marin, his oldest partner, had walked away 2 years back. Took the shuttle, took her gear, left him a note that said 3 words. Come home, Silas. He hadn't, because home meant admitting the canyon had beaten him. And Silas Vrenner didn't lose bets, not even one stacked against him from the start.
Why couldn't I answer? You won't find me down here.
She waited for more. He didn't offer it.
Silas.
After a moment, Fen touched his shoulder, brief, firm, the way you'd steady a wall that looked like it might buckle, and climb back down the catwalk. Silas turned the broken drill bit in his fingers. Worthless. The metal caught the dying light, and for a half second his prosthetic eye stuttered. A flicker, then another, then a hard pulse that made him wince. That wasn't ambient, that was a signal. He stood, turned toward the canyon wall. The eye pulsed again, stronger, directional, pulling his attention down and east toward the sealed entrance of Shaft 7. The shaft they'd abandoned 4 years ago after the geological survey flagged instability. The shaft nobody went near anymore. The reading was impossible. His prosthetic had a detection range of maybe 30 meters on a good day. Whatever triggered it was deep. 200 meters, maybe more. And the signal strength suggested a concentration of Aurelium that didn't exist in nature. Not on this planet. Not on any planet he'd worked. Silas stared at the sealed entrance of Shaft 7. The broken drill bit fell from his fingers and rang against the catwalk like a bell. Something was down there. Something enormous. He went alone. Midnight cycle when the gulch ran on skeleton power and the sodium lights dimmed to save generator fuel. Silas pried the seal off Shaft 7 with a crowbar he'd borrowed from Betik's cargo pile. Borrowed being generous, stolen being accurate. The shaft breathed at him. 4 years of sealed atmosphere, thick with condensation and the metallic tang of rock under pressure. His headlamp cut a yellow cone into absolute darkness. The walls wept. Mineral water beading on surfaces nobody had touched since the evacuation order. Shaft 7 dropped at a 30-degree angle for the first 100 meters, then leveled into a horizontal gallery. The bore drill grooves were still visible in the basalt, perfectly preserved. Like walking into a photograph of the Rush's peak years, when 12,000 miners had believed this canyon held enough Aurelium to make them all rich. Most of them had been wrong. His prosthetic eye was screaming. The signal strengthened with every step. Not a gradual increase, but an exponential curve, doubling and doubling again until the reading maxed the sensor's scale. At 212 meters, he rounded a bend in the gallery and stopped. Blue. The entire chamber glowed blue. Aurelium veins ran through the walls like arteries, thick, branching, pulsing with a faint bioluminescence that made the chamber feel alive. Not the thin deposits he'd spent 11 years scraping out of shallow claims. These veins were as wide as his forearm. The crystal structure was flawless. Gem grade, the kind that powered military jump drives and sold at prices that made colony administrators nervous. Silas pressed his palm against the nearest vein. Cool, smooth, vibrating under his skin like a heartbeat. 11 years. 11 years of dust and debt and broken drill bits and partners walking away. And the mother lode had been here the whole time. 200 meters below a shaft they'd sealed shut and forgotten. He started laughing. The sound bounced off crystal and came back to him, wrong, higher, sharper, like the chamber was correcting his frequency. He didn't care. He'd found it. The strike that would make 11 years mean something. Voss found out in 3 days. That was the thing about Gritty Gulch. 300 people in a canyon, and secrets had a shelf life measured in hours.
Shaft 7 is UN licensed territory, Vrenner. You know the charter.
Anything extracted from the sealed shaft reverts to the claim.
The claims authority is you, Voss. That's convenient.
Silas's jaw worked. His hands curled into fists at his sides, the knuckles white, the tendons standing out like cables. 40% of a fortune was still a fortune. But handing 60 to a man who'd never touched a drill, never breathed shaft air, never bled for a single gram of crystal. He shook Voss's soft hand and walked out of the assay office with a plan already forming behind his prosthetic eye. 2 caches, one for Voss, the visible haul, the legitimate 40%, and one for himself, hidden deeper in the shaft where Voss's people wouldn't think to look. The first compromise. He told himself it was justice. Voss was a parasite. Skimming from a parasite wasn't theft, it was correction. The rationalization came easy, too easy. Like the shaft's darkness, it wrapped around him and felt natural. On the 5th extraction run, he noticed it. The veins had moved. Not much, centimeters at most, but Aurelium didn't move. Crystal formations were static, fixed, geological constants. These weren't constant. The veins were growing, branching into new fractures, extending deeper into the rock. And the chamber walls, they'd shifted inward by almost a full meter. The geological report from 4 years ago hadn't flagged instability without reason. The crystal formation was pulling surrounding rock toward itself, a slow, crushing implosion that would eventually bring the entire shaft down like a collapsing lung. Silas ran the numbers in his head. Weeks, maybe a month before the geometry became fatal. Plenty of time to extract what he needed. Plenty of time to get rich and get gone. He told himself that. And he went deeper. Fen found the second cache on day 9. Silas had been careless, or the shaft had shifted again, exposing the hidden alcove where he'd stacked 32 kilograms of gem-grade Aurelium in sealed extraction bags.
I was wrong. There's nothing left.
She stood in the alcove with her headlamp painting the crystal bags in white light, and her face held the expression of someone who just watched a wall they trusted crack down the middle. Not anger, worse. Confusion that was halfway to grief.
It's insurance. Voss is taking 60% of everything through the front door. This is the difference between surviving and winning, Fen.
You told me this shaft was beat. You T-O-O-N-O-D.
Before what?
The silence that followed was the kind that answers questions nobody wanted to ask. Fen's eyes moved from the cache to the walls, and she saw it. The cracks. The mineral water seeping faster now. The ceiling that sat 4 centimeters lower than it had 3 days ago. Silas reached for her arm. She pulled away. She looked at him the way Maren had looked at him 2 years ago. That same expression. The one that said, I can see what you're becoming, and I can't watch it happen.
Leave the shaft.
He didn't have an answer. Or he had one and couldn't say it out loud because saying it would make it real. Enough didn't exist. Not for him. The number kept moving. Every time he reached it, the line shifted further into the dark. Voss moved first. 18 hours before the shuttle's departure, Yael appeared at the shaft entrance with 2 extraction techs and a company seizure order stamped in Voss's precise handwriting. The order claimed everything in Shaft 7, including the hidden cache, as colony property under the emergency decommission clause. Silas heard the boots on the gallery floor. The echo carried different in Shaft 7 now, shorter, tighter, the walls pressing closer every day. He grabbed the drill he'd been using as a pry bar and moved toward the sound.
This is my claim, Voss. Our deal was 60-40.
Mr. Voss sends his.
What happened next took 11 seconds. Silas swung the drill. Yael sidestepped. One of the techs grabbed the nearest extraction bag. Silas lunged for it, and his shoulder hit the chamber wall. The wall fractured. Not a surface crack. A structural failure that raced through the basalt like lightning through water. The ceiling dropped. 3 centimeters in a single spasm. Dust became a blinding white curtain. The Aurelium veins flared bright, brilliant panicked blue, as if the crystal itself knew what was coming.
Move! Get to the gallery! Now!
The techs ran. Yael ran. Silas stood frozen for 2 full seconds, staring at the crystal bags, at his fortune, at everything 11 years had purchased, before the survival instinct older than greed seized his legs and threw him toward the exit. Fenn's voice on the comm, thin, distorted.
Silas, I'm in the lower gallery. The ceiling's coming down. I can't...
Static. She'd come back. She'd come back into the shaft, probably to pull him out, probably because that's who Fen Okaido was. The kind of person who walked into collapsing mines for people who didn't deserve it. Silas stood in the gallery, headlamp cutting through dust, and he could see 2 paths. Left, deeper into the shaft, toward Fenn's last signal, toward the sound of rock still falling. Right, toward the secondary cache. 20 kilograms of gem-grade Aurelium in a reinforced alcove that might hold if he moved now. 60 seconds. Maybe less. He went right. His hands found the extraction bags in the dark. The alcove had held, the reinforced walls bowing inward but not breaking. 20 kilograms. Gem grade. Worth more than most people earned in a lifetime. He shouldered the bags and ran for the surface with the mountain folding in behind him, like a fist closing.
Just a little further.
Daylight hit him like a slap. Veridian's orange sun, the sulfur wind, the taste of open air after hours underground. He collapsed on the canyon floor outside Shaft 7's entrance and watched the dust plume rise from the sealed gallery like smoke from a funeral pyre. He tried the comm. Fen, respond. Nothing. Fen, this is Silas. What's your position? Static. The kind of static that doesn't clear. Because there's nothing on the other end generating a signal anymore. His prosthetic eye flickered. Not the Aurelium pulse, the other flicker, the one that meant the sensor was recalibrating after overload. The shaft was gone. Whatever was left of the mother lode was buried under 300 meters of collapsed basalt, and the eye had nothing left to read. Betik found him sitting outside the shaft entrance an hour later, extraction bags at his feet, staring at the sealed darkness.
You left him down there. I saw you cut the line. I did what I had to do.
Silas didn't answer. Betik looked at the bags, looked at the collapsed shaft, looked at Silas's face. The old cargo runner's expression didn't change. It just settled, like rock after a quake. He'd seen this before. The frontier showed you who people were, not always the version you hoped for. Silas sat. The hours moved through him like water through sand. Miners passed on the catwalks above, packing gear, hauling crates to the shelf for the last shuttle. Nobody stopped. A few glanced down, most didn't. Voss appeared at hour 6. Clean uniform, thin smile. He stood at a careful distance, hands clasped behind his back, and surveyed the extraction bags with the dispassionate interest of a man counting inventory. The words came out flat. Voss blinked. For the first time since Silas had known him, the claims operator looked unsettled. Not because of the concession, because of the voice. The way a man sounds when he's stopped caring about the thing he spent 11 years chasing.
The shuttle has room, if you want passage.
Voss took the bags. His people loaded them onto the cargo lift to the shelf. Silas watched 20 kilograms of Aurelium, worth enough to buy a house on any core world, enough to start over 3 times, enough to make 11 years of dust and sacrifice mean something, rise above the canyon walls and disappear. He felt nothing. That was the terrifying part. Not rage, not regret. An emptiness so complete it had weight. Like the vacuum between stars, the kind that doesn't echo because there's nothing left to bounce sound off of. The shuttle rose. He watched it from the gulch floor, a bright point climbing through Veridian's orange atmosphere, carrying 300 people to the orbital station. Fenn's family would be on board, waiting for her, watching the empty seat. Marin's voice from 2 years ago in the note she'd left. "Come home, Silas." 3 words. He'd read them 1,000 times and never once heard what they meant. Not come home to a place, come home to yourself. Come back to the person you were before the canyon took him. He found it in the dust outside Shaft 7, half buried in red grit. The cord was broken. The carved wooden starship, the one Fenn's brother had made, the one she'd worn every day since arriving on Veridian 7, lay in his palm like a question he'd never be able to answer. Small, light, the kind of thing a 21-year-old carried to remind herself why she was digging in alien dirt 10 light years from home. Not for a fortune, for a family, for passage, for enough. Silas closed his fingers around it. Gritty Gulch went quiet. The sodium lights flickered once, twice, and shut down for good, the generators cycling to standby with nobody left to serve. The air filtration units wheezed their last and fell silent. The catwalks creaked in the sulfur wind, like old bones settling. Silas Vrenner sat on the canyon floor of a dead colony on a planet that didn't want him, holding a carved toy starship in hands that had chosen crystal over a life. And he understood, finally, totally, too late, what Marin and Fenn and everyone who'd ever walked away had tried to tell him. The frontier doesn't take your soul all at once. It takes it in increments. One compromise, then another. One choice that's almost right, then one that's almost wrong, then one that's simply gone. You don't notice the crossing. You just wake up on the other side, and the person you used to be is a stranger you can barely remember. The Aurelium was gone. Fenn was gone. The shuttle was gone. And Silas Vrenner sat in the ruins of Gritty Gulch with nothing but a wooden starship, and the silence of a man who'd finally found what 11 years of digging had been worth. Nothing. It had been worth nothing.